Hi, I'm Ethan. I love muzzleloading. Today we have some muzzleloading news coming out of Utah. It's going to affect muzzleloader hunting seasons in Utah in 2024. The Utah Wildlife Board has voted to prohibit the use of scopes stronger than 1 power on muzzleloaders for all muzzleloader hunts. This restriction will apply to all big game muzzleloader hunts, including general season, limited entry, management, and handgun, archery, muzzleloader, shotgun, straight-walled rifle-only hunts. Scopes of any power will still be allowed on muzzleloaders during any legal weapon hunts, and visual impairment certificates of registration for scopes will still be allowed. Otherwise, only open sights, peep sights, a red dot, or scopes with 1 power or less will be allowed in those muzzleloader hunts. Now, I'd like to apologize because this proposed rule change before it was voted on this week actually slipped under my radar. This process of revolving around this now functional rule change here actually started in January 2022. In January 2022, the Utah Wildlife Board asked the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources to create a technology committee to address the increased use of new technology in hunting. The committee, made up of a diverse group of stakeholders, has met 9 times since April 2022 and has proposed a variety of changes since. Quote, "The goals of the committee are to preserve hunting traditions into the future, help wildlife managers meet their objectives in species management plans, and to increase the opportunities for hunters." DWR Utah Wildlife Migration Initiative Coordinator Blair Stringham said. This rule change isn't out of place. Just last year, we saw New Mexico implement a very similar rule change, restricting what used to be a rather open muzzleloader hunting season and removing the ability for muzzleloading hunters to use scopes at all. We also saw Washington, I believe last year or the year before, vote to keep scopes off of muzzleloaders for their hunting season as well. In the documentation provided by this technology committee here in Utah, they mentioned that at the time of their discussions, Arizona and Utah were the only Western states that allowed multi-power scopes on muzzleloaders during muzzleloader-only hunting seasons. I know because it's a hot topic here, I want to mention before the discussion gets too far going here, Utah does not mention anything about muzzleloaders being a primitive weapon for their muzzleloader hunting seasons. There's no mention of history, historical, heritage, nothing. It's a rather open muzzleloader hunting season, at least now. It's not saying that it didn't start as a primitive weapon season, but like in many states now in the United States here, Utah has gotten away from calling the muzzleloader hunting seasons in their state primitive or historical in any context. Now, I'm in full support of seeing heritage or historically focused muzzleloader seasons expand from the states that they're in now because we're seeing such great success for those seasons in those states. But I want to make sure that we're having the context here for Utah and not judging this rule change based on perceptions of what muzzleloader hunting seasons used to be or what we might like them to be. This rule change isn't going to be too alien for Utah muzzleloading hunters out there. This is actually taking Utah's muzzleloader regulations back just a few years to 2016. Utah just recently in the past few years here allowed scopes past 1 power to be added to their muzzleloaders. They do, though, just to clarify here, allow modern inline muzzleloaders with modern projectiles in their muzzleloader hunting season. But this committee has decided that it's the optic capability that is what is reaching too far, no pun intended here, in their muzzleloader hunting season. Data shows that scopes only increase hunter access by roughly 3% on muzzleloader hunts. We wanted to propose this change to help make the muzzleloader weapons rule consistent across all hunts. The DNR, or the Wildlife Board here, has said that they only see a 3% change with the scopes. My question about that is that really enough? Is that 3%, is eliminating that top 3% of hunters that are successful with the scopes, is that going to shift the I suppose, the population of the animals that are being hunted? Is that going to shift them enough in a positive manner in the way that they see it? Or are we going to see, again, some changed regulations or restrictions or rules in the coming years to address and increase or decrease that population as they see fit? I don't know. Regardless of what I think, it's happening. It's happened in a few other states here in recent years, and I think it's something that the modern muzzleloading industry is going to have to deal with moving forward. The Western states in big game hunting with muzzleloaders has been a huge industry within the hunting industry in recent years. You have, from my understanding, again, I'm not a Western hunter here, but you have increased availability of muzzleloader tags in these Western states, both for residents and non-residents, where tags are at a premium. It's difficult. People get once in a lifetime tags, and they have increased odds to get those tags with muzzleloaders. That increased odds of getting that tag with a muzzleloader goes back to the origin of these hunting seasons, of muzzleloader hunting seasons, when they were considered primitive weapon seasons. These states, as many of us know, would increase the tags available for a muzzleloader season because the muzzleloader was a more difficult arm to get game with. You have to be closer. You have to know your rifle. And recent developments in the last 20 years, mainly here, have catapulted muzzleloaders from what everybody thinks of as an old, clunky, unreliable arm, even though they aren't. It's really shifted that perception and that capability of an off-the-shelf muzzleloader. And so we're seeing the reaction here from the Utah Wildlife Board. I will say, though, that based on the changes that we have seen in New Mexico and other states, the modern muzzleloading industry is working to adapt to these changes. I know that CVA is working with the Williams sight company to provide an accurate replacement peep sight system for the CVA muzzleloader line, so that if you're in a state where you need to remove your scope for your muzzleloader, you have iron sights or limited sight options that you can bolt on to one of your longer range muzzleloaders out there. Arrowhead Rifles is another one. He's based, I believe, in New Mexico, and is offering ghost ring or peep sight systems on his custom inline muzzleloaders for hunters that still want to hunt with that custom modern muzzleloader, but need to now do it with a little bit of a restriction on their sight system. Several of the muzzleloading forums and Facebook groups have threads going on discussing these things. I'll link to those in the video description for you to hear the opinion of some other folks out there and maybe voice your opinion as well. There's also a pretty long thread on the Muley Pursuit Instagram page here of a lot of folks voicing their opinion about this. And I encourage you to go through and read some of this stuff. It's a means for me, because I'm not in a Western state here, to get a little bit of perception about this. Generally on these hunting pages and these forums, a lot of people aren't happy about this. Whether they are hunting there or not, it's hard to tell sometimes. But it seems like, based on these comments, a lot of the public perception and the hunter wishes for this rule change were ignored by this technology committee. The technology committee is saying that they were looking at data and studies, but we don't have any, to my knowledge, publicly available information from those studies for hunters and enthusiasts to look through independently. We are just seeing what the technology committee is, allowing us to see as the reasoning for this proposed rule change. Or for this rule change. It's not proposed anymore. As always, let me know what you think in the comments. I always like to see what people from different backgrounds and different interests in muzzleloading and how you guys feel about this. Let me know if we need to do an update or a follow-up video about this. If you're in Utah and you care about this one way or the other, and you're interested in being on the I Love Muzzleloading podcast to discuss this a little bit and give a little bit more background, let me know. Shoot me an email, ilovemuzzleloading@gmail.com. I'd love to discuss this further and have a little bit more insight into what muzzleloading hunters in Utah are going through with this rule change. That's all I've got for you today. It's a little bit of a short one, but I wanted to lay out some of the stuff here from Utah. I'll have links to everything that I've been reading from, all the source material, as well as any information I can find about these studies, cited by the Wildlife Board here in Utah in the video description, as well as ilovemuzzleloading.com for you to read yourself, form your own opinion, learn a little bit where you can. I'm Ethan. I love muzzleloading. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you next time.